We'll focus instead on what our next guest, being an all-time Kings icon, what he thinks of this surge. Of course, he's also concerned with his Chiefs this weekend. One and only Jerry Reynolds. How are you today, Coach? Oh, we got Coach Reynolds joining us now. I apologize. Hello, Jerry. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good. Very good.
Yeah? You worried about your Chiefs at all?
No, not really. It probably should be, but I think they've got about the best draw they can have.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably couldn't be any better for them.
Yeah. What a weekend you can have here if you have the Kings winning last night, your Chiefs win, and then if the Kings win on Sunday, which they should, that's a perfect weekend for you.
It just can't get any better. I mean, that game last night, that was playoff basketball. That was really great. And, just got to love what Coach Christie and the Doug are doing, boy, because they're playing at a pretty darn high level.
Did you call them the Dougateers? Is that, yeah?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
All right. Good. We'll see. We'll see if we can help that take root. Does it just warm the heart of a former coach to see a team go 13 for 13 from the foul line in the fourth quarter, Jerry?
It sure does, especially a team that, in past years has struggled in those particular areas. This year's, it has been better, and certainly down the stretch of games has been pretty good most of the time. So, there's just a lot of things to like about this team right now. I mean, they're so much fun to watch. I don't know just if Coach Christie could, have them go unbeaten the rest of the year, but he's sure getting a lot of mileage out of the young lads.
Legend, how many, I've seen this, and of course, numerous. So you even saw it last night on TNT. Pretty sure you saw this Chuck and Shaq and Kenny talking about it, where they like, a new flux, a new coach is in, you get a little flux of, entertainment, you get a little more shot adrenaline in the arm, but we'll see in another 2 or 3 weeks. In your experience, does it wear off at a certain point in time, or do you see this as being kind of genuine?
Well, I think it does wear off, but it's also true. I think this is genuine. I think Doug is really prepared for this. I think he has developed a good relationship with all the players, by being on the bench with them the last couple of years. And so, it's always a case too where he saw, I think, some of the really good things that Coach Brown was doing, and maybe some things that he didn't agree with, which is, and he's got an opportunity to kind of do the things he likes in addition to what he liked from Coach Brown. And I think there'll be a carryover. I really will be surprised if this team doesn't continue to, I'm not saying they're going to be 8-2, 8 out of 10 the rest of the year, but I think we're going to see a continued better performance. I think Coach Christie is ready for this opportunity.
So, Jerry, if you were the GM right now, if I may ask you, at what point would you go to ownership and say, I think it's time to take the interim tag off this guy?
I'd say pretty close.
Yeah.
I'd be eyeballing it.
Really?
I don't think you want to. I'd wait a while, as much as I love and respect Doug, but they made a mistake probably in kind of getting out ahead of themselves skis on the Coach Brown thing when they didn't really have to. And so you can't afford to make a mistake. Not that signing him long-term would be one. I don't think it would, but I would certainly say, and I think Coach Christie would understand that. Let's give this, another 20 games or so, and then maybe readdress it.
Yeah, because if you take emotion out of it, and as fans we get emotional, there's no benefit to the team to do that sooner rather than later, right? I mean, there's no advantage really if you say, all right, we're gonna take the interim tag off right now. It behooves you as an organization to be patient on that, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's especially under the circumstances they're currently in.
Yeah.
Obviously, how many coaches do you want to be obligated to, but I think with I just think it makes sense to get as much information as possible and see if this team is still making playing well and playing together, and the growth is there, and you have a reason to be optimistic, not just for this year, but going forward. So, and I don't think you could honestly say all that right now, even though I just did, but you really shouldn't be able to.
Joined by the legendary Jerry Reynolds to do it all for the Sacramento Kings organization and Monarchs, of course. Legend, one of the things that's touched me about the Kings over the last 10 games, and I'll just say 8-2 since Doug has taken over, the attitude in which they're playing. I've been kind of one of the detractors of with the Kings of, I think you have to pull the attitude out of the Kings versus, sometimes you can start a fight. I think they need to, the fight has to be brought to them. Have you seen any difference in the attitude as far as, being a little more gritty, a little more tougher, not just, they're playing better under Doug, but have you seen a change in attitude?
I think so. I think they're taking on some of his personality, and I think as a coach, that's what you would like to see happen, especially for a coach like Doug, who that's the way he played. He brought it every night, and that's what we're starting to see with this team. And of course, I like a lot of the things he's doing defensively, scheme wise. I thought we saw more zone last night. I think it's getting to be a better zone, and so a lot of positives. But I think the bottom line is, Doug Christie was a tough-minded, focused, prepared player, and I think a lot of that is carrying over to his team.
Mm-hmm. How much do you appreciate, Jerry, the fact that Doug is emphasizing to his players, you don't need to get into it with the officials. That doesn't help you. You need to focus on playing the game better.
Oh, that is so good. I mean, I wish every coach would kind of do that. It's like I've said many times, you guys know that I haven't spotted any coaches changing calls because the players whining all the time. So it just makes it worse. So I was told guys too, and I said, I'm very capable of making a fool of myself. You don't need to.
I think the whole league should look at that. I think the league would be better if the league emphasized that, Jerry.
Oh, I do too. I think it's a mistake they don't. They've kind of encouraged the officials have to listen to the players. Why? Mm-hmm. They made the call. Whether you like it or not, it's made. It's not going to be changed unless you have a challenge. Mm-hmm. But there are not many of those. So yeah, it'd just be for a better game. Let the coaches. They're paid money, and they can act like an idiot or bitch and moan if they want to. But you don't need it on every call by the players.
Right? He's right.
That's true. I'm with you, Legend. One of the things that I've noticed, and we've talked about it here. I know you chime into the show when you can. And when you're not up and down the freeways and flying the skies like you normally do. But one of the things we've talked about is DeMar and De'Aaron, and of course Malik playing at the end of the game and who gets the ball, how it's dispersed. Have you seen any change from the beginning of the season? And I guess I would probably say since Coach Mike Brown was there versus Doug there, do you see a different version of how they're closing out games?
Well, it does seem like that it's a little more of kind of who's got it going. I mean, they seem to be more comfortable with that. It certainly with DeRozan. I mean, obviously he's been so good of late, and seems like he's been a more part of the scheme as opposed to last night. For instance, I thought De'Aaron was defended very well, and so he didn't really have as many opportunities. And Malik, on the point, really is controlling the ball a little more. So it just seems to be working better. I mean, I don't know, what you don't know is if all the guys will be happy with the arrangements as it goes. I mean, I think that's the only concern I would have is I think the players themselves, I think are buying in beautifully. But I know just in the real world, agents have a tendency to muck things up when they can.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, Jerry, I wanted to ask you about Amen Thompson, the job he did on De'Aaron Fox. Because the Kings played so well when De'Aaron was out, there are some fans who, Fox wants out, just trade him, which I think is a bad idea. To me, as you said, De'Aaron Fox didn't have a great game last night. That's because he was guarded by Houston's best defender. And the reason why he was guarded by Houston's best defender is because he's the Kings' best offensive player. And that's what I think people keep forgetting.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Obviously, he's the guy they scheme for. I mean, really, but he and Domas, that's who teams kind of scheme for different reasons, of course. Domas, because of what he does for his teammates as much as anything. But, I mean, Thompson is just a marvelous young talent. I mean, I was just thinking, man, somewhere the Kings had Thompson, they'd be talking a real serious contender.
Yes.
But anyway, he made it tough on De'Aaron, and that made it easier on other guys because there's, Dylan Brooks may think he's the same level defender, but he's not.
No.
And DeRozan kind of punished him a little bit, which always brings joy to me. And but yeah, I mean, De'Aaron's a marvelous talent, and he's, people got to remember he's still a big time asset, and the old trade stuff. Well, everybody's tradable. I remember when Oscar Robertson got traded from Cincinnati. Well, or Jabbar got traded from Milwaukee, so everybody's tradable. But you don't trade your best players and most talented players for a couple of second-round picks and Joe Fiduzel, although that's exactly what Cincinnati did when they traded Oscar.
I was going to ask, is Joe Fiduzel a real person?
Well, actually, pretty close. I mean, Cincinnati Royals, get this, they traded Oscar, one of the probably half a dozen greatest to ever do it, for Glenn Robinson and Charlie Polk. I tell you what, they decided that Oscar couldn't lead them to the championship through Russell, the 50, so they turned a 50-some win team into a 30-win team. I said, well, that's a good move.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness the Kings organization hasn't done anything like that since, Jerry.
No, well, first you have to have an all-time great to do it.
That's right. That's right.
You might keep that in mind.
Hey, before we let you go, we've talked about this guy before. There was a story yesterday. Let's just assume it's true. Don't know for sure, but Kings have talked with Utah about John Collins. Just want to make sure. You in general approve of discussing John Collins with the Jazz, right? You think that's solid for the Kings?
I approve of getting John Collins.
Uh-huh.
I think he'd be a terrific fit on this team, and I've said this before. I mean, I remember when he came to the league, he played a lot of center for the Hawks and was pretty good at it. Now, since then, he's developed a good three-point shot. So my point being, not only would he fit with Domas, but he'd fit behind Domas. I think he'd be an outstanding get for this team. So, I know Draper has pointed that out over the period, and I know you have too. I mean, but I really like him. I mean, I think for this team, I'm not sure they could get anybody that would be a better fit.
Do you think we could get him for Fiduzel? You think they'd
I think Fiduzel and 12 first-round picks will get him.
Real quick, Legend, Whitey lied. I got one more. You're talking about John Collins, and I just want your opinion and experience. Does this team, from your eye, need a backup big, or would you be comfortable bringing in someone of a starting caliber? And John Collins is probably as close, but let's just say Cam Johnson. I just don't see Cam Johnson coming off the bench. So let's just say he starts. Where would you go to the starting five and say, okay, sir, we need you to have a seat?
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you did get a Cam Johnson, I mean, I think honestly it'd be a tough call, but I think DeRozan would be the guy to bring off the bench, as a big time scorer. I mean, you're gonna finish the game with him, but and at his age, no disrespect, but I mean, I think and he's a pro's pro. I think he could handle that. I mean, right now it'd be tough to tell Malik Monk he can't be starter again after what he's been through, and he's been terrific. So now you might do it the other way and have Keegan come off, but I think if you had you really still need that power, more of the length and rebounding that Keegan provides. So that'd be a tough call.
I was going to say, Legend, how do you have that conversation with another legend, a Hall of Famer? Like DeMar DeRozan is certified Hall of Famer at this point. How do you go to him and say, we need you to sit down, sir?
Well, I think that's exactly what you do. It's like, DeMar, this is our situation. What do you think? We've thought about, this might be the way to make us a better team. What do you think? Would it be something you could do or would do, or you think could work and make the team better? And if it was a real problem, you'd probably figure out something else. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you look back through the years, Andre Iguodala is a great example of a guy who'd been an all-star many times. Mm-hmm. And last time I checked, he had a lot of success, and the Warriors did. Him coming off the bench, through the history of the league. So, I think that is, if you're really trying to get better, everybody has to be willing to sacrifice something.
Jared, the example you gave of Iguodala, that actually went a long ways towards cementing their, so-called culture, because the rest of the team looked and said, man, that's Andre Iguodala. He's coming off the bench for the good of the team. So what do the rest of us have to complain about? It really set a tone. And I think Malik doing that the last few years had a similar effect on the rest of the Kings. You see how good that guy is, and he's willing to do it. That really keeps everybody in line when they realize that we got good players making sacrifices for the good of the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's, a bench player. I mean, you look back through the history of the league, I mean, whether it's been a John Havlicek or Kevin McHale, spent several years as a sixth man. Now, they weren't and some of the great players at the end of their career were coming off the bench, had been longtime starters. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, like I say, it'd be ticklish. I mean, one thing about it is DeMar doesn't deserve to not start.
Right. Do you go to? I didn't mean to cut you off, but before you finish that, do you go to DeMar now and say, "Hey, DeMar, we're in the market for a high caliber starting type player, probably a big man," or do you wait till that move is you can flip the switch?
I don't think it'd be the best interest to go to him until you really need to, because, like you say, if you get John Collins, it probably doesn't impact him the same way as a Cam Johnson. And so I think you broach that if need to be broached. And I mean, it's one of those things that may take care of itself. But anyway, it's a good question to ask, because, at some point you want to start 5.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, doggone it. Yeah. All right, Jerry.
Doggone it. Yeah. So I don't know if I solved any problems there, but I'll tell you what, that'd be a good problem to have.
Yes. Thank you, Coach.
I mean, no disrespect to DeMar or anybody else, but that's a good problem to have, and the Kings really need that problem.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate it and hope you enjoy the weekend of football, especially your Chiefs game, Jerry. We'll talk to you soon.
I am looking forward to the Chiefs game, fellas, and too bad the Eagles might not make it to the Super Bowl, but that's another story for you guys.
For another day. Yes. Thank you, Jerry.
Another day. Okay. See you guys.
The one and only Jerry Reynolds. You want to keep it here for a few minutes, Jay?
Please.
Yeah. You were asking him about